Oof.
Luca Nation community, ladies and gentlemen of the Luca Nation community. As soon as Cage jumped on the record, I clicked record. As soon as he jumped on the stream, I apologize. I clicked record. I want you guys to capture this live. We haven't had a ton of time to connect today. The big man just got another haircut. He gets about 4 a week. He just came from work. We're going to be bringing this a little bit later for you guys. This is going to be out, 7:30 Eastern. I took Cage's advice to heart and decided to sit by the pool and drink mimosas on a Friday night. So I hope you guys don't kill me the fact it's a little bit late. So I want to welcome you guys back.
You don't drink mimosas. Come on now. Mimosas.
Tigers and Bronzo Mai.
Get out of here.
Cage, I have 4 topics for you.
Mimosas for real? No, forget about the mimosa. That's the first topic. You're drinking a mimosa?
No, I was drinking wine, but mimosa sounded cooler.
I like it. So tell everybody about this fancy wall you have behind you. What are those? Like, is that an accent wall you got there? What do you got going on behind you? This is some fancy, it's on video now, man. You gotta tell these folks what the story is there.
They're not interested. I love design. I think so much of life is how well you design things. I love interior design. I just do. And when we were building out our family business, we were looking at like how, every room has a vibe. And we actually created an accent wall at our cafe. And I've always loved accent walls. And I love the accent wall behind me. It's kind of got this like chalkboardy look to it that I really, really like. And the rest of the apartment's white. I don't know. I just think it's cool, Cage. I don't know.
All right. So let's go. Let's get into your topics. Let's do it.
All right, brother. So this is exciting because Luca Nation. So here's the deal. This week we brought you 3 guest episodes, I believe it was. We brought you a Star Stock special. This is our first play of the week type of episode, play of the day.
Which go back to our roots. Go back to our roots. I love it. Back to our roots.
So as we're growing, we're getting more requests to do guest episodes. We're getting more requests from people, hey, can I come on? But I'm curious from Luca Nation, many of you guys have been with us since day one. What kind of content do you enjoy? Do you enjoy the daily plays and we should do 1 weekly episode? Really, because at the end of the day, this is for you guys. We love this. We enjoy coming on. So just give us the feedback, We're trying a ton of things. What works for you? Would you want 1 guest episode a week, 2 guest episodes a week? But here are the 4 topics, Cage.
Yo,
ready for it?
I'm ready.
One week into MLB season. We could talk about that.
Yep.
We could talk about who your current MVP is for the NBA. Okay. I did a post today, about grading a 1 of 1. Should you grade a 1 of 1? We could talk about that. Card that's a 1 of 1. Or, and this one's pretty interesting to me, collectible, right? The fractional share company. So last week, a Will Chamberlain PSA 9 IPO'd for $200,000. 1 week later, it sold, or they accepted, as they call a buyout offer, for $350K. Huge increase. I mean, that's what, 66% increase, right? Should they have accepted it? Did they leave a little bit of meat on the bone, as they say? So any of those topics, or feel free to choose one of your own.
Let's jump right into that one. I mean, it's funny because I've been doing this for, a few years now, pretty heavy. That Wilt 9 was one of those ones that I wanted to jump into. I bought an Alcindor 8.5 instead, right at the same time. That Wilt 9 was about 40. So it's amazing to see, the jump. It's not a huge jump, 5X is huge, when you compare to any other investment, but you compare it to cards, it's not as huge. The Alcindor went up about 5X also. It's more now. When you think of 350, it's close to 10X. So, it's just one of those cards, another one of those showing you that, scarcity rules, those vintage ones, they're not going to be any more 9s out there. I don't know, what is it, 110, something like that, of Wilt in that 61 flair that you're talking about. So do I think they left meat on the bone? Here's the deal with those fractional shares. They're basically, regulated securities. So they have to put those to the shareholders. So obviously more than half the people who own shares and bought in at 200,000 decided that they were going to accept the quick 350. And, they can't, it's not one of those like, collectible decided or anything like that. It's the, if enough of the share, just like any other stock buyout, just like what happened with, Collectors Universe or whatever it is, the shareholders get the vote. And if enough of them vote on it, the same thing happened with, the Pokemon set, remember, and they voted it down. So I listen. That's a cool thing because it just shows you. I mean, even though modern might not be going crazy right now, vintage is going up plenty. The right.
You know what the first thing I thought about when I heard it was they accepted the buyout at 350?
What?
I would say that's a great purchase at 350 right now. I mean, what card there's 3 PSA 10s and three PSA 10s and 31 PSA 9s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a Mickey Mantle PSA 9, which has a really similar pop report, a little bit less, sold for $5.2 million.
Yeah, well, there's 3 10s of that card also, but I think in 9 there's only 6. So a
Right.
little different, but still, yes. I mean, obviously the Mantle is, considered, one of those iconic pieces that's just beyond cards where Wilt is not there yet. But with basketball moving the way it's moving, yeah, I mean, that's like a granddaddy of cards, So
there's
I see
no
what you're saying.
There's no one that's going to touch Wilt. Like, he played in a different generation. He's iconic. There's a joke of how many women he slept with. That's
not a joke. That's not a joke. Dude, that's not a joke. That's a real thing.
What I mean by the joke, it's like an urban legend. No one knows the exact number, but like that kind of stuff is important.
It's like you. No one knows the exact number with you either, man. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. You have like Wilt-like numbers. Don't be shy. We know.
Oh,
Forget about the Wilt. The 100.
I've never put up a 100-point game.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to score 100 in soccer. That's the only reason why. So, but I love that topic. I mean, I think that's a crazy sale. I mean, but 350. If you told me that card sells for 500 in a month, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. Just because what you're talking about there is such scarcity at that high end of the pop report that all it takes is 1 or 2 people that really want to have that card, and you see what winds up happening. And if somebody's gonna be paying millions of dollars for an ape CryptoPunk, then why not pay a couple $100,000 for one of the top 10 Wilts of all time, right?
So I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you guys get these emails from Collectible, but I do. What I found strikingly interesting is the person that they had to announce the buyout was Jack Settlement, the Top Shot and Zed Horse King. They had him announce the buyout for the vintage card. I found it funny, but. Anyway, we had Jack on. Good guy.
Jack is everywhere. I mean, he was a fun episode. He's everywhere. I mean, he is Jack. If you're listening, I mean this in the, in the best way possible. He's the poster child for the new economy. He's the poster child for what we have going on, especially this year, maybe during the pandemic, maybe before, and possibly after. He's on to the next thing. You know what I mean? And maintaining some investment in the old, but moving on. He seems to find a way to always be ahead of what's gonna pop next. So, he's all about the horses. He spent all day on Twitter breeding horses today, if you look at his Twitter. I don't know what the hell that means, but I think I should know what it means. So maybe that'll be the next thing I research.
So, NBA. Who's your MVP? Jokic or Embiid?
Who's my MVP for this year? Donovan Mitchell.
Really?
Yep. I'd go with a dark horse candidate, man. Donovan Mitchell. Team's got the best record, which to me, weighs in what the MVP is. They would not be anywhere near where they are without him. Because yes, while they have Gobert on the team, Gobert is not carrying a team, and he's not an offensive presence the way that Mitchell is. And that would be my MVP vote. I know most people can be like, Cage lost his mind. He's not even in the top 2. But Jokic, he's had a great year. Take nothing away from him. Both sides of the ball, you name it. But the supporting cast that he has is absurd.
You think so?
Added to it. Yeah, man. I mean, he's got a great cast. I mean, does Michael Porter Jr. does he even get playing time? Is he a starter? I mean, Aaron Gordon coming over there and basically saying, he's never had such easy open looks, right? Because of just the supporting cast around him. On the 76ers, the same kind of deal, right? I mean, Embiid, say what you want about Simmons and his inability to shoot a 3-pointer, but if you were a GM of another team and you had to draft, and I told you could draft from the 76ers, I don't know if Embiid's even the first player you take.
100% he is. 100%.
So,
but Ben Simmons is really interesting. I've been watching the Sixers, for how long? Simmons is nothing without Embiid, but Embiid is nothing without Simmons, if that makes sense. Like, I'll give you an example. When the Sixers, Embiid was injured, the Sixers just don't have enough offensive power to get buckets. So they can't win games in the NBA because they just can't score enough. But at the same time, there's not a single defender, and I mean this, that's better than Simmons in the NBA, in the current NBA, because Simmons could go and guard Kemba, which is crazy. That's crazy. then he could go and guard. He could probably guard Jokic in the post, and you don't see that. You don't see a player that's a point guard that could guard a short, quick guy and then a strong guy like Jokic that's 7 foot.
It's amazing the way they complement each other. The team has done better. You would think, that's a nice tandem. You would think they would be a little more successful, especially in the postseason, but it hasn't. He hasn't equated to.
Two matchups I'm excited for are the Nets and the Sixers when they meet up in the playoffs, which I'm pretty sure they'll inevitably meet. Even though I like Miami, Miami's is going to be weird because Ariza and Oladipo seem like they're improvements to the team, but they're not. Oladipo might have hurt his knee, by the way. And I'm also excited to see, and this is a 3-team, and I'm interested to see Nuggets, Jazz, Suns. These teams they're going to meet
very similar. Yep.
Very similar team.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, who's a better team, the Jazz or the Nuggets? Who has a better roster?
Depends on the night, right? Depends on the night, right? And none of them are a team that I'm going to bet in the postseason until they do it, and none of them have done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they all could fizzle out. They all could be first-round exits even because they just, you gotta prove it at least once, right? So.
And a complete team in the regular season is way different when you have to play 72 games than when you have to play 7 or 4, and your jumpers aren't falling.
That's the thing, right? One off night for their best offensive player, and it's it's problematic. You're 100% right. Donovan Mitchell's not playing well, or Devin Booker is not scoring 40 points. That's a very different team. And when you get to the playoffs, there is a lockdown defender on the other side. Yeah. Yes, somebody, you're going to be up against their best player the entire time, and you have to be able to, to create. And, we'll see.
For me, it's Jokic just because we've never seen someone do what he does. We just haven't seen that. Embiid is fantastic. Donovan Mitchell, I predicted that he's going to have a Giannis type of career. So I do think in the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to win an MVP. But man, Jokic is just absolutely insane. I think I saw his PR in the Lamine group is higher than Jordan's, higher than Michael Jordan's. And I mean, you could say with stats, all that stuff, and I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan, but I mean, the guy creates their entire offense, and he's a center. He does a fadeaway pull up jumper. He could pull up for 3, but he's also the best passer in the game. It's incredible what he does. It's really incredible what he does.
Gotta put some respect on LaMelo's name when you talk about best passer. I can't even say it with a straight face. I was gonna give you shit about best passer and bring LaMelo Ball into it, but all right. So there's
LaMelo's a very good passer. He's a very good passer.
Listen, if the Joker wins the MVP, no one will complain. I mean, he's had a great year. He's had a fantastic season this year. And that MVP award is voted on before the playoffs even start. So, we'll see what happens.
What's actually what he's done, and Curry did this too, and it's interesting. You don't actually get a chance to see this till 7 to 11 years down the road. He's brought back the center position.
Well, I was going to say that, especially with Embiid, right? So does that change the game a little bit? And does it change collecting a little bit? Is the big man back in vogue when the top 2 front runners for the MVP are both big men?
I do believe so, but I think it's going to change the game, not now, but maybe in 5 years when we're going to see a Zion Williamson hype prospect, but he's not going to be a power forward that's 6'7". He's going to be a center that's 7'1", that can ball handle like Jokic, that can pass like Jokic, but he's going to be – Jokic didn't have any hype, so it's hard to build hype, right? He's just generating momentum now. But if he came from college and people were like, wow, this guy's just changed the game, I think – what you're going to see is kids that are big men want to start play like Jokic. And then in 3, 4, 5 years, when it actually plays out, that's when the game will be changed. And people are like, wow, I should start investing in centers that are kind of like point guards. That's my opinion. I don't know.
It's a very different center. When centers were popular before, with post centers. They were offensive centers, in the post, and your triangle, you're in and out. Instead of just pick and rolls, you can run the offense from the point, kick it back out for your threes. It's just not that type of a center now. Now you're right. It's a 7-foot point guard, basically.
Jokic is running the pick and roll. The guard is setting the screen for Jokic.
Yeah, it's backwards. It's like a backwards pick and roll. Exactly.
Yeah,
So, man, those were 2 good topics. You got a play for today?
I do. My play it's a fun one. So one thing that's kind of common or accepted is the sophomore slump, especially when it comes to football quarterbacks. I think Lamar Jackson had that this year. I think a lot of the quarterbacks that people are betting on are going into their sophomore year. So the sophomore slump isn't an accidental thing. The reason why there's a sophomore slump is because all offseason, offensive and defensive coordinators of the other teams are scheming. They're watching film on Herbert. They're like, the guy torched us last year. He's not going to torch us again. Right. And remember, division. You play 6 games within the division, which is basically 40% of the year. Okay? So those guys are like, I'm facing Herbert. I already know the schedule. I'm going to be able to game plan for him. At the same time, someone who's completely been oversold, in my opinion, is Lamar Jackson. So I'm not saying Lamar is going to be the best passer in the world. He's a little inaccurate. But I think if there's ever a time to buy at the bottom with significant upside, it's right now. And what we've seen is a few things, right? One, his cards were oversold. 2, we're seeing this thing where off-season buying is coming sooner and sooner and sooner. So I think that same thing's going to happen with NFL. Like, people are already talking about it. Cage mentioned this a ton of times because, guys, I don't know how you see Cage, but Cage is a jokester, but he knows this. He's gone through cycles. So he's talked about this. The time to buy baseball is gone.
Yep, it's gone. It's crazy, right? It's a week into the season, it's gone.
So okay, soccer. Soccer is what it is. Soccer's not had any track record of success in.
But soccer is interesting though because they don't have that season. I mean, there are seasons, but then you have Euro Cup, you have Olympics, you have World Cup. So soccer is an interesting, different potential investment thing because it's not a seasonal thing per se. So go ahead. Sorry, I think
so too. I think soccer is going to take 1 to 2 to 3 years for us to actually notice patterns, right? Because sure, we had that boom, that Eiffel Tower with Mbappe, but it came out of nowhere. There's no predictability of it. So we don't know how the soccer market works yet. It's going to take time for us to see patterns. But I'll tell you, one pattern we know is off-season buying. Oh, yeah. And here we have a former MVP. I personally expect the Chiefs to have a down year. Let me clarify what a down year actually means. It doesn't mean
12-4.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to get to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. And there's a few reasons behind that. But first off, you're playing way more games than everyone else. So your team's just naturally beat up more. It's hard to keep that motivation. And here you have Lamar with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. People are he's nobody. He can't throw passes. There's articles that, free agent wide receivers don't want to go to Baltimore. I think it's all baloney. He's a good player. He's a good player objectively. And I think his cards are worth a look. And my play would be a PSA 10 select silver. There's only 130 of them out there and it's $800 or best offer. I like that play a little bit more than going with his base because his base is $700-800, but it has a way higher pop. It's like the Prism base. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can go that route. I don't know the Prism base market that well for football. To me, anything with a high pop and a base scares me. Especially when you could get a select silver that has a pop 130 in a PSA 10, that more than likely is not going to go up to more than 150. There's just not a ton out there. And you could get that card for $850 or best offer. I think it's worth a look. I really do. I think.
So is the thought to hold him for the season, to hold him long term, to buy it now and sell it, in the preseason run up? What's the thought on it?
If you have the bandwidth, if you have the financial capacity to do this, it might be worth buying a few, selling 1 or 2 to take your profit, and then letting one ride. If you can do that, that's a cool card where you can. Something like that, I would want to let it ride, but I'd also want to take profit. The only way you could do that is if you buy 2. So let's say you buy 2, you invest $1,500. Let's say by the time season starts, it's a $1,200-1,300 card, which wouldn't be crazy. I mean, it's $750 now, goes up to $1,200. You could sell one and let one ride.
Yep, 100%. 1,000%, 1,000,000%. So I like it. Now I have to leave and not give a play because I got to go to eBay and I got to go check out the Lamar Jackson price because I think it's a good play. I think I would probably be more along the lines of maybe buying some Prism base PSA 10s if I could find them and just flipping them and selling them before the preseason because you're right, he's definitely been oversold. He's definitely a guy, especially with all the quarterbacks out there. I'm gonna put some money into Tua. Okay. Lamar is an MVP already, you know what I mean, with a better team. So It's interesting to think about that, and like how we put our money and our faith into the rookies, into the new shiny toy. Lawrence is going to come out and going to be so much money, and yet Lamar Jackson, if Lawrence comes out and has a year like Lamar Jackson had his MVP year, great, but Lamar already did it, right? So anyway, it's an interesting thing, right?
And you'd hope he would improve, at least like when we're all betting on something. Like, I mean, he's got so much to work with, and all he has to do is improve a few things, and I'm sure they're working on it.
100%. So, and guys, listen, we're having some fun here. I was making fun of the accent wall. Take a look at the YouTube channel, right? You got it's got Lucas Tigers and Bronze. We're we're on YouTube as well. So if you're listening to this, stop over there as well.
Paige, we've been on YouTube, like officially on YouTube for what, a week and a half, like really putting out content. Like, so guys, it's not just the video version of our podcast. We're also putting out clips. Our team is amazing. They're doing such a good job with it. We got over 1,000 views. We got over 1,000 views. So nice.
So the next thing I got to put in there, besides going over to the YouTube channel, it's amazing, 1,000 views, is we have a new Instagram page as well. So the podcast has its Lucas Tigers and Bronze page, but just check out the Luca Nation Network on Instagram. It's its own page. If you're following the podcast, you should also be following the network. And basically that is, you've seen some of the stuff that we're doing. We got Conrad, Luca Nation Conrad. He's got some amazing stuff that he's got out there, and he's part of that Luca Nation network that we're building up. And there's gonna be clips on there. There's gonna be posts on there that you don't see just on the Lucas Tigers and Bronze podcast page. So if you're listening to this and you're one of the fans, one of the members of Luca Nation, that's a new page just came out this week. Luca Nation Network. Go ahead and give it a follow. We'd appreciate it. So my play's a fun one, right? I got to go back to the roots, man. I got to do it because there's so much
Kyle Lewis.
Well, there's so much hype. There's so much. Yeah, Kyle, that would be great, right? There's so much hype on stuff, but this is a Kyle Lewis type of play because it's one of those plays where people aren't looking, right? So I hope our listeners, who listen to this quick and jump on eBay, get the benefit of being one of the first ones that listens, has your notifications on and whatnot, because I think you're gonna like this one. I haven't bought it myself, and I was going to today, and I'm like, you know what? Don't buy ahead of these guys. Give our guys a chance. Don't buy them. But I'm going in MMA, right? And I say MMA and not UFC for a reason, right? Because a lot of people don't realize this, right? There are a lot of money men coming into the hobby now who are not collectors. They're pretenders, right? And they put in search terms on eBay like Topps, Chrome, Refractor, Topps, Panini Prism, whatever it is, and PSA 10. And that's what they're going to buy because that's what they know people are chasing. If they know people are buying. With UFC, it's been the Topps product. It's going to be Panini coming out this year. It's going to be UFC Prism. I think it's going to shine an extra light on the same way soccer, got bigger. I think, people are already looking at UFC. But the people who are looking at UFC are not the fans of it. They're not the collectors of it. They're the people who think, oh, UFC's next. We had Marvel. We had Pokemon. We had this. So we had soccer. So get some money in UFC. And they look at UFC. They look at the names they know, and they put in Topps. They put in Topps UFC, and they put a name in. Or they just put Topps UFC, and they look for Conor McGregor. Okay, well, guess what? There was fighting before Conor McGregor, and there were cards before Topps. You heard what I said. So 2009 was the first time that Topps put out a UFC licensed product, round one. Expensive stuff. That's the one with the Joe Rogan cards with his crazy hands, and they're going for hundreds of dollars for a base card, which I probably threw out when I was opening those boxes. There's so many of them. But in 2008, a licensed product, Donruss. You've heard of it, right? Guys, Donruss is, Panini puts this stuff out, right? It's a Donruss brand, right? You have it in basketball. The Donruss Americana put out a set called Ring Kings, RINGKINGS, Ring Kings. And it is a fun set. It's a limited set. There are autos, there are relics, there are cut autos, there are promo cards. And there are people in the set like George St. Pierre, one of the legends of the UFC, Randy Couture from Expendables fame, with that movie. He was a former UFC champ. Frankie Edgar was a champ who's in that set. Dan Henderson, Hendo. A lot of great names in the set. Very inexpensive. You can get the GSP cards in there. So where I'm going to go is two on this. One, just take a look at it. Put in 2008. Donruss Americano, just put in 2008 Ring Kings, right? It's a UFC/MMA license set. It's not everyone in there is UFC. Cool cards. You're going to see, if you want to take a look, one guy has for $10,000. Bad Brad, I think it is. He's got for $10,000 the full 28 card cut auto set. It's pretty cool to take a look at those. Those are pretty limited, and you can see some of the guys in the set. Randy Couture, that's a name, guys. That's a legend. That's like buying like Oscar Robertson basketball cards. One of the first UFC champs. One of the first, if not the first, two division champs. Light heavyweight and heavyweight. There's a promo set in these Ring Kings. Just regular cards. Promos, and you can get the promo set for like $30. You can get the Hendo for $5.99, as many of them as you want. You can get the Randy Couture for $7, as many as you want. You can buy them in quantity if you want. And the only reason they're available now is because everybody's just typing in tops. Everybody's typing in, UFC tops. And this wasn't a tops UFC licensed product. It actually predates it, right? So it's one of those like you could buy into Pokemon and be in the 1999, Wizard of the Coast set, or you can buy one of those Top Sons from 95 or the Japanese from 1996 and be even ahead of the game, So that's what this is. And here's a little extra nugget for you. And I should have just bought them all myself, but I'm not gonna. You guys can get it. Anybody watch The Mandalorian? Anybody a Star Wars fan out there? The Mandalorian? So do you know who actually fought and was the Ronda Rousey before Ronda Rousey? Gina Carano. So she's in The Mandalorian, and she was a champ in mixed martial arts. She's got a card.
She sounds like a lawyer I wouldn't want to face.
Gina Carano. Oh, listen, look her up. You wouldn't mind facing her. So Gina Carano, take a look at the card. She's got autos, she's got relics, but she's got a promo card. She's got a base card in there, and it's not expensive at all. And I'm telling you guys, these are one of those things where if the people who are buying UFC now knew that this existed, none of them would be left on eBay. They just don't realize it yet because they don't actually collect these cards. They didn't follow this stuff. And, they're just typing in tops and UFC and buying and overpaying for all these cards. People are paying thousands of dollars for GSP autos, and you can get them for significantly less of this particular one. So again, it's 2008 Ring Kings. Take a look. Buy a promo set for $39, with a couple cards in it. Buy some Randy Couture's for a couple bucks. Maybe get them graded with CSG. Maybe get them graded with PSA if they ever open up a bulk sub down the road. It's not something you need to rush on. It's something you can stash away. And when people realize, when that Topps UFC stuff is continuing to go up in price, people might want to look at this because it came out before the top stuff. So it's just a sneaky little, play you're literally getting nowhere but here.
Let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious about this. You know that Dana White sold his stake in UFC?
I didn't. I think when it was bought out, he had a 10% share of it. I didn't realize that he sold his stake.
He sold the remainder with the vision of. So they tried to do this before. I'll read you some of this here. It was super fascinating. That it's always really interesting to me, Cage, when a company does something very public, but then something that they do very private. Right? It's still news, but this isn't big news, and I felt like it should be. So this came out April 1st, okay? Recent. Dana White is selling his stake in UFC with Endeavor set to take 100% control of MMA promotion, okay? So
Endeavor is the name of a company?
Yep. Currently, Endeavor owns 50% of UFC with the other 49.9% owned largely by Silver Lake and KKR investment firms. But Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel is working to take full ownership. The New York Post, Endeavor wants to make a play for an initial public offering to become a publicly traded company. They first tried in 2019, but ultimately pulled out. And this is something we've talked about with Topps going IPO, in the SPAC deal. There's so much money right now in the stock market. Like you're seeing that with companies that are you guys saw GameStop go insane, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like if you look at the penny stock companies, even they're trading at insane multiples. And I think right now you're going to start seeing a lot of these companies and this is how I think about it. Our Luca Nation community more than likely knows way more than I do. But when you go public, you're trying to help the private shareholders of a company liquidate their assets to the public, right? Trying to raise capital through the public, but really it's private shareholders who started this company want to go public to get some returns on their money. And with so much money in the economy, I think companies just have no choice but to go public because they can make 10, 15, 20x on their returns just by doing that because all of these retail investors now want to invest. So Luca Nation, tell me if I'm right, wrong on this. Tell me your thoughts on it. But I find it really interesting. I think this is just the beginning. You're going to start seeing more and more and more and more companies go public. It's interesting. I don't know if you have a take on it.
There's no reason for them not to, but I saw a cool stat. I forget who it was, maybe Slab Stocks. I love those guys. They put up great stats as well. They showed a picture of Topps, and when Topps was bought by the private investment firm that Michael Eisner had, they paid $350 million for it. And it was 14 years ago, and now it's $1.3 billion. So it was like a 3-4x return on the money. And then they showed the Michael Jordan Fleer card, which at the time was $10,000 or $2,000, and now it's whatever it is. And they're like, look, it's much better return if you would just bought the cards instead of the company. So it's interesting, obviously humorous. There is not a market cap on Michael Jordan of $350 million in PSA 10, but not yet, at least. It'll get there. So I like it, and I didn't even know that. So I'm going to research that as well and see what it means. But good episode, man. This was a fun one.
Follow our new page, guys. It's right here, on Instagram.
Luca Nation Network. Yep.
Yes.
At Luca Nation Network. Thanks, guys.